So greetings everyone. Welcome to our today's session. My name is Kabbalah. As I said before, I'm a member of the African Continental Unity Party, and I'm also a member of the Free-Minded Pan-African Academy. So this is our regular training session that we have every Wednesday. We hope to continue this session every Wednesday throughout next year to empower our people, not only with the ideology of ACUP, but also with necessary knowledge that can allow us to function as leaders in any particular place where we function on a daily basis, whether in the business environment or in the political area. Our mandate as ACUP, apart from organizing ACUP as a political party in every African country, our mandate is to train and to create new leaders. Of course, with the help of our elders in these platforms and everywhere around the continent, we hope to produce a new class of thinkers, new class of leaders in Africa who will be able to take Africa to the way we want Africa to be, who will be able to eventually help us to unlock ourselves, to free ourselves from the yoke of neocolonialism, and eventually be the ones that will be actually championing the work of rebuilding Africa as a global power base. So on this session that started a couple of weeks ago, we have been discussing about the purpose. We started off with the purpose of life, the purpose of an African person, the purpose of the struggle, why do we struggle? And today we want to talk about revolution, or the purpose of the revolution as African people, because what we know, of course, that in case you don't know, but many people already know and understand, that the only way we have to solve our problems as African people is through revolution. Now, revolution may mean a lot of things to a lot of people, and that's the reason why we are here discussing in this platform what revolution means to us as members of the African Continental Unity Party and the Free-Minded Pan-African Academy. What does the word revolution means, and who is supposed to be a revolutionary? So I will make the presentation for a couple of minutes, not more than 30 minutes. I'll try to be brief as much as I can, so that we can open the platform to everyone's participation. We believe in interactive training or education. We don't believe in a banking style of education. You see, there are two methods of education. You have what is called a banking system or banking style of education, and you have an interactive style of education. A banking style of education believes that people are passive beings on whom you have to come and deposit certain contents that you feel right for them to know, right? At the interactive level of education, we believe that everyone got something that can be shared, something that can be used in contribution to the whole agenda of revolution or agenda of rebuilding Africa. So we don't want to have a system of education that consider other people as a passive, because you see, for you to know, in fact, knowledge cannot be gifted. Knowledge is acquired by a process of active engagement with the nature or with the environment. That's how people gain the knowledge. And most importantly, the knowledge is a product or a result of experience that you can have with your process of inquiring from the nature. The result of that begins or becomes what we can call the knowledge. So what the current system of education does is to provide information, not really the knowledge, but information is just information. It cannot change your life until you are able to practice that, then becomes the knowledge which eventually affect and transform your life. So being able to interact, to get feedback from you, to get your comment on the topic is also helping us to educate ourselves, to change our perception of certain things, also to improve what we are doing. I'm always loving to give this example If you have an apple and I have one apple, we exchange. You're still going to have one apple and I'm still going to have one apple, right? Nothing different. I mean, nothing happened really. But if you have an idea and I have an idea, we exchange ideas. You're going to have two ideas, yours plus mine. Same as me, I'm going to have two ideas. So this is to encourage everyone here to take part in this discussion. When we open the forum, we want to hear from everyone. What will be spoken here is to get your reflection in terms of feedback. So think about it, ponder around the subject of the revolution, and then actively come into the discussion, because that's how we are able to collect all ideas and enrich ourselves. Can you imagine 14 of us, everyone contributing? We are able to go home with about 14 or 15 ideas. So that being said, revolution. Why do we talk about revolution? Revolution means a lot of things to different people, as I said, but simply for us as African people, or for anybody else who has ever struggled for revolution, revolution means simply change of the system. We are working, or we are living in a certain system that has been fashioned by some people since a long time ago. We can talk about Berlin Conference. We can talk before that. We can even talk about at the end of the Second World War, where some important documents were drafted to really make sure that Africa remains in two positions. The first position is to provide natural resources that have to build the Western world. And the second position that was given to Africa was to be the consumers of products developed abroad or by Western countries. And this has been the position that Africa has assumed up until now. Our resources are open for external plundering, right? While our market is open for external consumerism. So in a nutshell, we were discouraged to produce for ourselves, to be in charge of Africa or other resources, right? So this has been happening and causing a lot of difficulties, a lot of chaos, unemployment, hunger, sufferings, you can name it, all across the continent, even though we are homes to all these resources. Now, at this point where we are today, the only way to change things is not to reform things, because when you want to reform, you are not really changing something. You are just kind of rebranding or repainting a picture that has been already there, but you don't change the fundamental issue that you are facing as African people. So for things to change for better, for us as African people and for our children, we need what is called revolution. And revolution simply means change of the system. So we have a corrupt system, a system of predation, system of suffering, and we want to change it to a system that will respond to the needs and aspiration of African people. That's what you call revolution. That's what you call revolution. We're talking about, for example, in the world today, we're talking about the Industrial Revolution. Do you remember how it started? Before, people used to use their hands to do agriculture or to produce or all those kind of things, to do the job. People used to rely on their physical energy, to rely on animals sometimes to do the job, to do agriculture, to do the business, to do all those kind of things. And what is called the first industrial revolution was the change of a system whereby instead of people to rely on their physical energy, on animal energy for the economic to function, people had to rely on the machines. That's when you talk about the steam engine. Now, let the machine now do the job. Let the machine transport the goods from one place to another place instead of animals. Let the machines, produce the crops or do the agriculture, assist in the products of in the production of food. In terms of agriculture. So this is the change we're talking about. So like today, our resources are not benefiting Africa. So we want to change. So we want revolution. We want the system, a new system that will make sure that every African child that is born has a place in Africa, has hope in Africa, has a future in Africa. Today, African children don't have hope in Africa. When you ask many of them, younger children, 15 years downwards. You ask them, where do you want to spend your life? They will tell you France, Paris, Lisbon, all these countries, America, simply because we have not been able to give hope to the younger generation as much as we were not really given hope by the people we found on this continent. So we need a revolution through which we can give hope for the younger generation to see Africa as a place of destiny, a place of hope, and actually a paradise for the black man. The same way that white men said that Africa should be paradise for the white man, we need to change that to make Africa the paradise for the black man. So in nutshell, revolution means the change of the system. Now, what triggers revolution? This is the second point now. It's very important to understand, because from the second point, I will then discuss who is a true revolutionary. Now, what triggers revolution is always when the situation is unbearable, when people are suffering so much, when there's no job, when there's no service, when there's no service delivery, when there's no healthcare, when there's no education, when there's no economy. People will get to the point where they cannot cope with the situation anymore, and from that point it is a riot. Now, when the riot breaks out, there are two results to that riot. Not riot, I'm using a wrong word. I should use frustration. When frustration becomes so important, there are two things that can result from the frustration of the people. One thing is riots, protest, and what is called in English word mobocracy, whereby people will go down the streets, burn down the shops to show their anger, all those kind of violent activities. The other direction that the frustration can lead to is towards revolution. But mind you, both revolution and mobocracy are triggered by the frustration of the people. When the situation is unbearable, when the situation is so difficult that people cannot even afford a decent life to themselves, they become so frustrated, and in that process of being frustrated, they have to find a solution. Now, in this process of finding the solution, some people choose violent, some people choose riots, some people choose all kind of actions that of burning down the cities and all those kind of stuff. Now, in the same process of frustration, some people will choose revolution. Now, the people who choose riots, chaos, and those kind of things, we can call them activists. And I'm basing my statement on Kwame Ture, whom many Africans consider to be one of the greatest revolutionary theoretician and practitioner as well, because he led a lot of organizations. So this is exactly what Kwame Ture said, and I will invite you to read the book. The book is titled Stokely Speaks. Stokely Speaks is actually a combination of a lot of speeches that Kwame Ture made at various universities. That's where he describes, or he makes a difference between revolution and a revolutionary and activist. Right. So now the people who embark on the riots, sometimes they call themselves revolutionaries. They wear red berets. They are angry in their faces. They speak with anger. They do all those things that we know, right? In essence, they are not revolutionary according to Kwame Ture, but they are rather activist, right? Now, on the other side, you have people who are leading the revolution are revolutionaries. Now, this is the third point. What makes a difference between an activist and a revolutionary? This is very important because ACUP is aiming to form or to try and produce revolutionaries, not activists. The most important difference between an activist and a revolutionary is that an activist, because of his frustration, because of anger that he has for the lack of things that he doesn't have, for the lack of economy, for the lack of the job, for lack of so and so. An activist, his fight or his struggle is about claiming his place or claiming his rights, or how can I put it, asking for the things that he does not have. So in other words, he is fighting to claim his place within the system. He does not aim to change the system. He just fight to get what he does not have, what has been taken away from him, what he has been deprived of. But the system is not really his problem. His problem is to get a decent job. His problem is to get a decent salary. His problem is to get the service, the service provider in place, or the service to get a service that is needed in the community. His problem is to get the infrastructure. His problem is to get a free education. But he doesn't care really about who is in charge of implementing those changes that he wants. He doesn't care really who is in power, who is commanding the system. That is not his biggest problem. His problem is get a job and get it right now. Get a good salary, get infrastructures, get the service being delivered, get the water, get all those things. So, and they will embark people in the march. Let us go march. Let us go protest. Let us go do this to demand ABCD, as we have experienced in Africa. And this is the most trading part of the struggle is on activist side of it. Many people call themselves revolutionaries while they are truly activists. And number two, about the difference between a revolutionary and activist. Important one. An activist is always a reactionary. Activist is a reactionary. It means for you to see an activist on streets, there must be something bad that has happened. Once there's something bad, a chaos, or somebody has been killed, or whatever that takes place, then you see activists now begin to mobilize people. Let us go down the streets to claim this and this, to demand justice on all those things that we mostly see in Africa. And I'm going to give you one typical example. When George Floyd was murdered in America, we see movement popping like mushrooms all across the world. Even the Black Lives Matters, right, becoming so important in America. These were activists, not revolutionaries. Because once that chaos goes away, once that situation goes down, once that the memory, the brutal and fresh memory of George Floyd being killed, being killed with the knee of a white man on his neck. That image, once that image get to be forgotten or fades away in the minds of the people, you don't see any more protests on streets. Does it mean that the system has changed? No. Does it mean that racism has ceased to exist? No. Does it mean that white man is now loving person towards African people? Not at all. The system is still the same. The predators are still there in place. But why don't we see the continuation of the struggle to change the system? Simply because it was an activism. So activism is only reactionary. And the danger with the reactionary movement is that the person that triggers your actions controls your life. In other words, if you only have to react after your enemy or your oppressor has acted, it means he controls your life. Because he's the one now who got the button to press to get you in actions. When he presses the button, it means when he does something, when he kills a black person or when he makes a racist statement, then he gets all the African people on the streets protesting and doing things that we like to do, to be seen on TV. But when he doesn't do that, you take no action. It's like he does not exist while he's still existing. So the problem with activism, number one, is that they are not aiming to change the system. They are claiming what is taken away from them within the system. the very same system of predation and precarity. And number two things about activists is that they are reactionary instead of being what you call, what's the opposite of reactionary? It's a procreation or what? Proactive. Thank you very much for the words. Thank you very much. Proactive. Yeah. Instead of being proactive, they are actually reactionaries, and by being reactionaries, they get to be controlled by the people who are in charge of the system, or the people who are oppressing them. So we have many reactionaries in Africa today. Most of our political institutions, when you look closely at what is happening in Africa, you see that we are more reactionaries. We have to sit down and wait for white men to oppress us, for white men to invade, for example, Burkina Faso, for white men to do something bad, for white men to treat us in a racist manner, so that we can begin doing certain actions, doing certain activities. And when the situation goes away, you don't see black people anymore organized. You don't see black people anymore united. You don't see black people anymore doing something to make sure that they are in charge of their destiny, in charge of their lives. Meanwhile, I tell you, America, the United States of America, European Union, NATO, all these institutions, they invest heavily, lot of money in think tanks, groups that are studying solely every day. People don't have another job. Their job is to sit down. They get paid for that, to study how to keep Africa dominated, how to keep Africa under their control. Every day they study. They monitor every activities that we do on social media. They follow our leaders to see every speech they make, every move they make. They monitor, they research, through the NGOs in Africa. They research, they try by all means to understand and anticipate anything that can happen in Africa to disrupt the privileges that these folks have been ripping out of Africa for a long time. They do this on continual basis, on regular basis. Every day people have to report. Every day people have to study means and method by which they can keep Africa under their control. It means Africa that is divided, whereby people are inclined more into micro-tribalism tendency rather than coming together and build institutions of power through which Africa can be liberated. People, they have to study by all means to keep people distracted in this way. That's why you see our queens and our kings on TikTok naked or doing all these foolish things, trying to be by all means really distracted, sometimes willingly, while we are in danger. So America does this, and you want to be in that position of activism whereby you need to wait one day when America does a bad action to you, then you want to go down the streets and demand to who? Right? This is a problem. So this is a difficulty that we have with activism, a third difficulty. And related to this one, a fourth difficulty that we can talk about in terms of activism is that activism is always periodic. And I know you definitely understand what I mean periodic from the previous explanation. It's not a constant activity. It is done on period of crisis. That is when people remember that, we are Africans and we are facing racism and we are facing injustices in the world and we don't have the economy. Let's go down the street now, do something. It's always periodic. It's not constant. You just have to notice when something happened or something happens in the world, that when you see social media really going in flame with all these Negroes popping left and right, stating they are leaders of so and so. You see a lot of movements recently when there was a coup d'etat in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. We saw a lot of speeches a lot of talks. When Magufuli died, we saw a lot of speeches, a lot of talks. But after, what happened with all those speeches? What happens with all those talks? They go away, because activism is always periodic. Activism is always reactionary. Activism is always in demand, not in making things to exist according to the way they want, not in replacing the system with a system of justice, a system of righteousness, but they are in demand by leaving the guardians of the system to be in place. So that's the problem with the activism. Now, if you want me to talk about revolutionary, are the opposite of everything that I spoke about activist. That is what revolutionaries are. Whether there's quietness, whether there's riots, revolutionaries are constantly studying, strategizing, thinking the method by which they can free themselves. Especially when the time is quiet, that is when revolutionaries work the most. Especially when there's no apparent crisis, that is when revolutionaries work the most. Revolutionaries don't always show angry faces. Sometimes they smile a lot. They joke a lot. Malcolm X, always smiling. Kwame Ture, always laughing. All these people were laughing, but when you try to study, Thomas Sankara, always laughing. Lumumba, I've never seen Lumumba in angry face, shouting, we want this, we want, always talking quietly, nicely, but the power of their mind is what impact the lives of the people. So revolutionaries are the total opposites of what activists are. So revolutionaries, they don't want to be recognized within the system. Revolutionaries, they don't want to be on the top. They don't want to become the pop stars of the system, like to be invited in London, to be invited in Paris, England, to be celebrated, to be the ones on big show to talk and stuff like that. No, that's not the agenda of revolutionaries. The people who have that tendency are the people who want to claim their place within the system. Revolutionaries want to tear down the whole system and rebuild the system of justice and a system of righteousness. Actually, revolutionaries are not even wanting to fight the oppressors. They are interested in building their own system. Look at this. Let's say that there are two people, you and someone else. Now, that person has built a house, maybe using you to build that house. And after you have built the house, it kicks you out of the house, and then you put you on the streets, under the sun, in the rain, all those kind of stuff. So now there are two possibilities. There are still a lot of materials there that can be used to build another house. Now you have two options. One option is to fight that guy and destroy the house. Then you can now begin rebuilding another house for yourself. Or you can just directly try to turn your back on the guy and begin building your own house. I guess the easiest way or the easiest solution among the two is to go directly to the building of your own house, because if you try to fight the guy who has kicked you out, you may not be able to win him. Or sometimes you can win him, and after you have won him and destroyed the house, you don't have the power to build your own house. So revolutionaries are builders. Revolutionaries are builders. But we know once we are able to rebuild Africa, to build our own system in Africa, it is the downfall of all those systems that have been depending on the exploitation of Africa. However, we don't have energy to waste on destroying their systems. Like I see some people calling themselves revolutionaries and say, we want to destroy capitalism. No, you don't have to destroy capitalism. You just need to build your own system that will replace the law and the rule of capitalism in your life. You don't have to attack white man. He's got too much instruments to destroy you. Build your own. I think it's much easier than try to fight somebody, and that you don't know if you'll be able to fight him. So revolutionaries are proactive. Revolutionaries are thinkers, and revolutionaries are builders. You know, when we talk about building or rebuilding, most precisely, we're talking about going from the foundation, right? Build the foundation. After you've built the foundation, you then begin to grow up in the building. It requires patience. It requires commitment. It requires discipline and dedication. But activism does not have much of patience, because remember, the first thing that comes to the mind of enough activism is to go down the streets and burn down the street, burn down the shops. You know, it happened in South Africa not long ago when the President Zuma, I think last of last year, if I'm not mistaken, the former President Zuma was arrested. The whole country was in flame. Now, what happened is that many young people, under the influence of activists, went down the streets, burned all the shops, all the malls. I mean, most of them actually in Durbans and in all the townships in Johannesburg. Now, after burning those things, 2 days after, people were queuing to the few shops that were remaining to buy bread. You will find people making like 5 kilometers of queue to go and buy bread and buy meat to eat the meal. So I don't know if that was a productive action to burn down all those shops. Even those owned by black people were burned down. And many people were thinking that is a revolutionary. No, that is not a revolutionary, because you make yourself suffering again after you have done that, right? So revolution is more on building what? Building your new system. That's why we defined revolution as the change of the system. If you have a system that has been oppressing you, what you want to do is to replace it with a new system that you want to build, that you want to be in charge of. And number two about revolutionaries is that they don't make demands and leave those demands in the hands of other people to implement them. Revolutionaries don't ask for job and leave the people who are not revolutionaries to create jobs for them. Because every time that you ask for a change and leave that change in the hands of other people, those people at some point, they will take that change away from you and they will make you suffer again. That's why we always say within the ACUP that the best way to change the society is not to ask for a job, is not to ask for a good salary, is not to ask for infrastructures, even though all those things are important. But the best way to change a society is to capture the power that defines that society, the power that dictates life in that society, the power that determines who get what salary, who get what job, who pays how much taxes. Once you are in charge of that power, you are able to change that society into whatever you want it to be. That is the true change that we're talking about, and that is the true revolution. It's not about making demands. Revolutions will never ask for them. They can, of course, address certain things, demand certain things to be done, but the soul or the core of their agenda is not on basing their fights on demanding, is on making the change they want by bringing about a new system that they want. So revolutionaries are not periodic, they are not reactionaries, they are acting constantly every day. You see, this movement ACUP started a couple of years ago, like 3 years ago. Now, many African are opportunists. They're sitting by trying to watch to see, okay, where are these gents trying to go? And then they will be on board and identify themselves to the movement once they see that the movement is successful. But once things are not clear, they don't want to do anything. They don't want to identify themselves with the movement, because simply in the mindset of an African, many Africans, they don't want to be the builders. Yet in our vein, in our blood, we have the genes of the pyramid builders, the people who had to invent or create from non-existing things, create into existence from non-existence. Before there was no pyramids, they had to build pyramid by themselves. They built civilizations. We have that genes in our blood as African people. But because of colonialism, neo-colonialism, right, today, which has destroyed our mind, We don't look at ourselves as capable of rebuilding Africa. But few of us are here to rebuild Africa. Now, the formula, I'm going to end here. The formula that revolutionaries use to bring about the change they want is by building institutions. Building institutions. Revolutionaries believe into institutions. They don't believe in individuals' struggle. They believe in institutions. The world today is governed by institutions. You just have to look closely to see how much UN as an institution has much influence in our countries and in our lives. You just have to look in all our countries, those Western NGOs, how much influences they have over our governments and our lives as African people. So we cannot resist, we cannot change the situation if we are not building our own institutions. So we need to be able to build our institutions of politics, economy, labor, in all 9 areas of people's activities, which are economics, entertainment, education, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. We must be able to build our own institutions in all these 9 areas. And by building institutions, we'll be able to rebuild Africa as a global power base. We are suffering today because our mineral resources are valued by the World Trade Organization, which is not an African institution, which is Western institutions. They are the ones who determine the price of our commodities, right? And they're the ones who determine the game of the markets. We don't determine that. And through that, we are losing a lot of money. We are losing our economy because of that. So we need to come up with our own African-owned institutions to regulate our market, to regulate our trades. We need to come with our banking institutions. We need to come with our educational institutions, with our own curriculum. So this was just to conclude. I think I've went through the difference between a revolutionary and an activist. And I started by defining what is revolution and what is not revolution. In other words, what is activism? So we have, at this moment, we don't have a duty to reform things that have not been working. As African people, we don't have a task to reform a system that has not been working for decades. We have been electing leaders after every 5 years or 4 years in Africa. What have we achieved through this cycle of elections and re-elections? We have been doing things in a certain way. We have been dying for our individual countries, for Angola, for Nigeria. We have been doing all these things. It's part of activism because we have never questioned the system itself. We have never questioned the fundamental of the system itself. Now, if we want to create revolutionaries in Africa, if we are serious about the revolution, we need to begin by questioning first and foremost the fundamentals of the system. Firstly, what is the meaning of the Congo? Who created Congo? Who controls Congo today? What is the meaning of Nigeria? Who created Nigeria? Who controls Nigeria today? And when we understand the people who control these colonial enclosures, then we will figure out easily that we need the revolution, which is the whole system, to create what we want for ourselves. But egotism, arrogance among African people, tribalism among African people will always cloud our mind to see the bright future that depends on the unity and the collaboration of all African people in the world, which is what we need to do. So we need to question the fundamentals of things that we are doing. Are we asking and keeping the system in place, or are we willing really to replace this rotten system with a new system that will make sure that African people's survivals is guaranteed out of the 21st century? So these are important questions. So there's a lot to talk about this topic, but for the sake of time and for the participation of everyone, I want to pause here and to bring in their participation, their contribution, comments. So Thank you very much for your patience and for listening to me. Peace and power, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those abroad, those at home, and those in the future. The floor is open. King Fanelo, I assume you are the MC of the meeting. If you are, please take over. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, King. What a powerful insight between a revolutionary and an activist. The way you put it, you just made me want to be just a revolutionary. That's it, not think something else. Yes, the floor is open. As King Kabbalah said, we welcome all thoughts so that we walk away in this session with many ideas. In the end, we are not having these conversations for nothing or in vain. Actually, that is the whole game. We need revolutionaries to be born. We need revolutionaries to take some of this stuff and look and re-look and analyze and look at systems and say, how can we build differently? And that's a powerful thing. So the floor is open. If you would like to speak, just open your mic and speak. Whoever speaks first, the floor is yours.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. I would just like to add some historical clarity to that excellent presentation because I grew up in that era, in the 60s. I read Stokely's book before he became Kwame Ture. I've met him personally, worked with him in a lot of projects personally, and a lot of the other revolutionaries at that time, Omali Yeshua of the African People's Socialist Party. And though I was younger, what I could not understand was the lack of unity on this. And this is where I have difficulty with Kwame and his analysis as Stokely, because he left out the class question and his own class question. When it comes to being revolutionary, I learned that the first thing begins with yourself. You have to change your mindset, how you view people, how you view your situation. Those of us that grew up in diaspora, and those that were part of the Petty B class, like Stokely, that were able to go to college, we have a class question we have to deal with. And I feel that's one of the things he did not deal with. When he talks about reactionism and people who are reactionary and activists, yes, that is very true. However, we need to engage them, not separate from them. And this is what happened with the revolution here in America. And it goes to that subject of egotism. Everybody was worried about where they stood in terms of their legacy. So you had Omali Yeshua, he was more into on the ground with, which Kwame would say the reactionary force. And then you had the bourgeois class, which was Kwame, who are more intellectual. We're sitting and have plenty of debates about this. You need to come and bring this together because the masses is what matters. Okay, and they don't understand the analogy of not African revolution. The analogy he got is what he learned at the universities. Europeans taught him about European revolution, Chinese revolution. You're repeating what someone else told you about what they thought the revolution was about. And I don't see that. I see that when you talk about George Floyd, I was back in the police brutality battle way back in the 80s. And my struggle was when there is a problem where someone was abused by the police and I'm organizing the community to come say something, I can't get members of the AAPRP to come participate. As an organization, I'm asking you as a human being to come take place. But because of your ideology, they're reactionary. This is why the police brutality issue lasted so long. Because the people who had the ability to communicate what we need to do to make change would not participate because they're worried about being revolutionary and not reactionary. I don't think that's a good mindset. The mindset, I believe, of a revolutionary is take what he has there, what's in front of him, and the people that where they're at, and you make that change. If people are angry because something is happening and we need to do something, well, let me help you do it correctly. Let me give my input, help you do this in a more efficient way, then I can explain to you why. As opposed to, oh no, it's just reactionary, we can't do that. And then the masses move away from you, and that's what happened in America. And the reason part of that happened is, back to what you were saying with egos. Our experience in America in terms of activism and revolutionary has always been in the terms of the European. Because of the bourgeois background, you're still seeking his approval. Which is one of the things as a kid, when I was reading his book, I was wondering, well, why did they publish it? He must not be that bad because they're publishing it, which is the truth. It was a piece of work that nice, educated black folks can sit back and pontificate and all of that, but it's no threat to nobody. So yeah, they're going to publish your book because ain't nobody going to unify behind it, because what you are saying is just intellectual stuff, as opposed to breaking that down so that the masses understand exactly what you are saying and giving examples that they can relate to. And so you can talk to people, yeah, you're angry. Well, you're there with them and your anger, and you try to direct that anger. So you don't burn down all the shops. But you may burn down some shops. But we're going to do this correctly, because you have to feed off the energy of the people and bring them up, as opposed to being on a level and then saying, well, no, those are folks down there, they got to wait until they come and catch up with us. No, that was not the strategy that we should have taken. And I see with the HUP, I see you have the mentality of everybody come into this. All you need is your love of Africa and your love of humanity. And then you can bring what you have to the table. Now, what Kwame did and what O'Malley did coming out of the 60s, and I was the next generation, I was supposed to follow them. And since I grew up bourgeois, I was of the privileged class, I knew I had to make a change and find out what the field is doing, how they live. That's why I made a conscious choice to make class suicide and live down in the ghetto and find out exactly how black people live, how they think, what they go through. And that's why sitting in college and reading books and studying, no, that didn't matter to me, because that's not my reality. And it's not other people's reality. As a revolutionary, we have to look at the people's reality. Yes, there's a lot of revolution, and a lot of people had great thoughts and said great things. But what matters in revolution is the action, the change that is made. And a perfect example I like to go to is the Cuban Revolution. They put in the work. Because when they got to the physical and they won the physical, the rest of the classes, the rest of the masses were prepared to go into the hills and educate their illiterate. They were prepared to go out and do the work that needs to be done, and they were accepted by the masses because they didn't separate them from them. They were still on their level. Though they may be much more knowledgeable and have a greater understanding of what's going on, but when it came to connecting with the masses, they were able to. And I think that is the most important part about a revolutionary. Forget what he knows intellectually. The most important about, can you still sit down and converse with the masses? Can you still get their attention and talk to the man on the street on his level? You get to understand what we're trying to do. Now with this, and you're correct when you say with this George Floyd thing, because this is what we've been taught in this country, in America. Is that how you get your freedom? You march like Martin. You give a nice speech like Martin. So then we have a generation of youth, and that became what they were about. They were revolutionary, but they gave great speeches, wrote great books, didn't mobilize no people. So that's not good. You may be a revolutionary, but you ain't a revolutionary unless you have the masses behind you. Otherwise, you're just a student of revolution. Matter of fact, you can call yourself a professor of revolution. You can talk about it, you can teach it, but you can't do it. Because it's not like the leaders make legacy. It's the masses that make history. And so without having the connection to the masses and beginning at their level, even though they may be incorrect at times, you work with them and bring them up. And so it's very important for you young folks to hold on to what you know now. Don't rely on what the past said, unless they have absolute proof of what their method worked. Anyone coming from America, I don't care, because I grew up in the era, so I know them all personally. I know how they acted personally. And when the masses see you, you don't have no change in your personal life. When the lights are gone, you acting like everybody else in the street, they ain't gonna respect no revolution. So that's the next thing about change in the revolutionary. Self-examination. Criticism and self-criticism. Looking at yourself, your own personal behavior. Because the masses see you. Masses see what you do, how you act, how you treat women, what your focus is. One of the problems is that I actually had with the AAPRP, when I joined them, was recruiting with them, we have a major convention and our meetings are conducted using Roberts' Rules of Order. Well, who was Roberts? And why do we follow his rule of order? He's a European. You sit up here pontificating how much you hate Europeans in Europe, but you run your meeting in the manner in which they do. Which tells me that you lack the confidence of an African to create your own method of communicating in the meeting. Because you see, and when I examine Robert's rules, it's designed for nothing to get done. Dialogue. No, that's dialogue. Stop talking. No, excuse me. Humans have dialogue. That's what we do, especially Africans. So when I saw this, I said, okay, no, there really has to be a total mindset, a total change. Nothing, if you can't say, well, we hate the Europeans, but certain things, we kind of like the way they do it. We like the way they dress. I wish I had a car like him. You know, those are the things we have to change, and we have to teach from the masses. Teach them that they have to change, and they have to see that change in us. You know, I never, my thing was that I always didn't worry about money because I grew up around it, but in my own personal life, I took simple jobs in human services that didn't pay much, though I could have made a lot more money. But no, I wanted to see what the folks on the ground, how they were living, and show them that doesn't change who you are. That doesn't change your mindset, your economic situation. And then those that are on top. This is the problem I had with his thing with the AAPRP, that they're only recruiting on college campuses because the intelligentsia leads the revolution. Who told you that? Who said the intelligentsia? The question is, where their intelligence coming from? So I have a bunch of bourgeois black folks going to college, and they still have the mindset that they're trying to please mommy and daddy and look good. So they're only going to be revolutionary, but so far. That's why it makes it comfortable for them to say, no, I'm not going to go out and protest. That's reactionary. No, you don't want to go out because of your class position. You want to prove that you're an intellectual and you're at a certain level. And then maybe you can get a book printed. The Black Panthers, that's where they went wrong. Instead of totally analyzing what you're doing, they were too busy with the publicity, doing something that gets the picture in the paper, selling posters with him sitting in a chair and a gun. Yes, that helped me as a child, but when I analyze it now, no, that was a total mistake. We're not here to win favor. And it's a little different being here in the States, but we're not here to build favor with people, to have people like us. And just like our ancestors taught us, when your oppressor begins to like you, there's a problem. So when this is like, and I see this personally from my experience. I read Soul on Ice. I read all those books. And I always question, why are they publishing these books when I know what they should be publishing, something that they don't want the people to read? But it was safe to do that. So revolution is it's a touchy thing. It comes from an understanding of where you are living your life, where you have lived your life, your upbringing, and your understanding of the reality. Because a lot of folks, and you see this now in the States, a lot of folks sound great. Umar Johnson is another one. Because that's how we were raised here in the U.S. You talk a good game. Because that's what they taught us with Martin Luther King. Have a speech. Have a nice speech that people like you for. Just like the minister. This is why they kept the politics within the church. When I was trying to do politics in the U.S., first thing they asked me, I'm telling them I want to run for councilman. First thing they asked me is what church I belong to. But what does that got to do with anything? If you are truly following the American example that you claim you want to integrate into, there's separation of church and state. So you would want an independent person. But the fact that when it comes to our people, the first thing they want someone who's connected to the church. Because no, that's what causes you to become impotent. And you are controlled. As a matter of fact, that is the main reason Obama married Michelle. Or they allowed that, because that gave him a connection to the black church. Of course, it backfired a bit because the priest was a little bit too radical and he had to back up, but that was the only reason. And so as revolutionary now, it's different than I'm learning in Africa, because the land question is solved. But here in the diaspora, which is, I only raised this because you raised Stokely, and that's where he's from, the diaspora. His analysis is a little bit off. Because on a human level, we have a different situation here. We're enslaved in a foreign land. So our approach to revolution should be a little bit different than people who are actually enslaved in their own land. So this is why his analysis of what he learned is a little bit off. And it's only because of I followed behind him and was able to look and see and continue to do work to see where the errors were in terms of organizing in the diaspora. Like with me, I'm looking forward now here in the diaspora to talking out to the reactionary ones. When people want to, yes, I'm going to be there because I'm going to try and educate there. I'm going to try and educate people as opposed to the position that they took. Well, no, I'm not going to work with the organization. They're reactionary. I'm not. No, because we're not trying to we're trying to bring the masses together, everybody, on the one thing: we love Africa. Now, you may love Africa. Do you love Africa? You go to church? Okay, I ain't worried about you going to church. Do you love Africa? You need to get on board. Perfect. Oh, you're a businessman. Okay, you want to make money. Okay, I understand you want to make profit, but do you love Africa? Then you're going to get on board, because we're going to educate you. We're not going to distance you. Perfect. No, we're going to educate you that you can continue doing what you're doing, but you need to do it for a different purpose. Yeah, you're a policeman, but now you're a policeman and you're working for Africa. Whatever business you're in, now your mindset, your personal mindset need to be about Africa. You work in the government. We know that it's corrupt, but you need to think, and that's where change is going to come about. When we recognize and you teach the people that regardless of where we're at or what we do, or what
Thank you, King.
organization be part of. If
Thank you,
we
King
love
Jumbo.
Africa, I'm sorry.
No. We're just are concerned with time.
Okay, I'm
We would
sorry.
love you to wrap up.
All righty then. I'll
Just
wrap
wrap
up
up.
there then. I'm so bad. I'm sorry. That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much for your contribution, King. We just want to allow other people to also have floor while we still have time. So I'm going to request that everybody just summarizes the thoughts to add on top of that. But thank you. Every contribution is valuable. The floor is open.
Hello.
Go ahead, King Kifaru.
Yeah, I just want to say, from what usually kills revolution is greed and money. A revolution is not a business. It's not something you come to get rich or to get fame. A revolution is within. So this is what I always tell people, and this is what I've noticed. If you think being part of a revolution is something to make people know you, to get fame or to get money, then you're not ready. So you're doing a revolution for yourself and for the future. That is the only reason that you're doing a revolution. And if you have that within yourself, no amount of money, no amount of fame is going to make you stop the revolution. So we should be truthful to ourselves. Are you ready? If you're ready for a revolution, then you should know this is a sacrifice that you're going to make, and you should take it up to the task. Because sometimes when people come, they think it's a money-making thing, they think it's a fame thing, and if they come, they don't see it, they just go away. And it's been happening so many times. And when people have that mindset, it's easier to corrupt people with money. So if you want to be a revolutionary, know this is a sacrifice that you're willing to make. Thank you.
Thank you, King Kifaru. I think let's keep the ball rolling. The floor is open. Do we have any takers? We love participation. We love ideas. We love to walk away with many ideas. That captures what this revolution is about.
Yeah, I come in.
Yeah. Welcome,
Yes.
King Koko. Go for it.
Thank you, my brother. The first thing is we need to take back what is ours, and what has been ours belongs to other people, and that's where Africa has gone wrong all this while. Lots of people compare Africa to China, India, Singapore, and all these other countries. All those other places, even though they experience colonialism, they haven't gone through what Africa went through. Africa went through slavery, colonialism, and that involved Christianization, indoctrination. But we find that now we are fighting amongst ourselves, because those who embrace Christianity or Islam or all the foreign religions, they feel that we have to continue following how they do things. But we don't realize that that's how we are dividing ourselves. And there's no way we're going to achieve revolution if we don't deal with mental slavery. We need to decolonize if we are to go anywhere. And number one, let's realize that we are all living in denial. We think the English former colonies of Britain, they are not experiencing any neo-colonialism. We are under neo-colonialist rule. We are under neo-colonialism. We think our rulers are the ones who are corrupt, but our rulers are only serving their foreign masters. So if we want to take back what is ours, really, then we need to mobilize. We need the revolution. Many thanks.
Thank you, King Coco. Yes, these are great ideas. This is recorded, so we can play it again and again and again and share. It's about changing and transforming minds. So that is why we record these sessions, where you can go and access all the discussions that have happened, and they can be shared and distributed. So the floor is open.
Am I allowed to come in, please?
Yes, King, go for it, King Coffee.
Thank you so much. First of all, I think this is a great discussion. I have to acknowledge that Kabbalah's introduction or presentation was a very nice one. And then also, thank you, King Smith, for coming in to also add your points here. I think when it comes to revolution, there is so much more we can talk about revolution. After defining what revolution means to us in the 21st century, obviously it is good for us to also list out how to go about revolution in this era, because obviously the tools that were used let's say 100 years ago might not be the same tools we will use. For instance, when you see people signing petition online and all those stuff, denouncing things or exposing certain reality, or even use technology as an educational tool, as we are gathered here, these are all things that need to be considered in terms of how to go about revolution. And then also, I think Kabbalah made a little comparison. And I'm sure that it was not just to literally confront both positions when it comes to revolution, a revolutionary, and then an activism. Because one thing for sure is when we talk about revolution, it is essential for us to blend all components in our society, because revolution is for the masses. We have to be able to blend all the components, all sort of people in the society, to achieve or to change the system, as revolution is about changing of the system. So even those activism should be used to serve the purpose of revolution. Activism here is not a threat, just that being into reactionism is not the best, but yes, still reacting to certain things in society could be also of advantage to the revolution. So for me, I think we still have to talk about a lot of other aspects of revolution, just as I said earlier, how to go about revolution in this 21st century, and then also how to make use of all other components of the society, being it those that are cold, those that are into activism, and even those that are neutral, how to go about them and to make the revolution a successful one. So for me, I think there is more to discuss. If anybody here think that they can observe it from another angle, another perspective, let's bring it on board and then discuss revolution, and then make sure that we plan well, we organize ourselves as revolutionary, and then we move the African agenda forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, King. We recognize that it should be like an orchestra. We need all kinds of instruments in this music to make our masterpiece. Okay. Song creator, writer, and put all of these instruments together to create a masterpiece. But what we're hearing, the significant difference is that being an activist is like it's fire, it quickly rises and dies. But revolution is a lifetime agenda. And I think that is the significant difference that we are picking. And yes, we hear that it has to be connected with the heart. You have to stay with the masses and connect with winning the hearts and mobilization, transforming and using that lever of the masses. But otherwise, the floor is still open, Kings. I think we're going to wrap it up just at about 1:30. So we've got about 9 minutes to go. Any takers?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Kabala, for this revolution topic. I think Africa or Africans must promote a dialogue on the future, as we are doing now, and ensure that Africans, particularly the young generation, participate in a debate like our topic today. The reason behind this effort is the need to ensure that Africans claim their future and take responsibility for their own destiny, despite, the doomsday scenarios of what? Afro-pessimists. In an environment, I think, where dominant message about what the future of Africa is that Africa is the continent that has no future. This is what the West has been saying. And it is, imperative that Africans take the initiative, as we are doing now, to begin to undertake serious analysis, as we are doing, of the future possibilities, unconstrained by ideology or cultural prejudice. Africans themselves need to what? To begin to seriously examine what could be and what ought to be in our lives. If we do not, the negative images might continue to be a problem in our head. And also, we must fight against economic elitism. We must tax the rich more than what they're being taxed. Why I'm saying this is that, we must also tax their savings and interest from it. This is another revolution that we must take, and tax their overseas, banks accounts. In our revolution fight, the African economic elite often possesses what? Trillions, which were appropriated through what? Corruption. Collaborations with what? Western exploits, or through what? Theft from national resources. We are our own enemy. This is one big part that ACUP revolution must take to. And who in Africa gets the kind of what? Salary? And we cannot expect to end the global exploitation of Africa if we continue to allow Africans to exploit Africans. So we must try to raise our voice to tax them, because they are part of our suffering today. They collaborate with the Western world to loot Africa. We must raise our voices in that way. If the economic elites of Africa were, there will be sufficient funds for the provisions of what? Free education, free healthcare, and for the salaries of public workers and etc., teachers, doctors, and whatever. And furthermore, the main reason why Africa is so impoverished is because the economic elites, as I said, of Africa have aided and helped the Western countries to exploit our continent. And it is happening now. So, colonialism, economic elitism, is thus also what? A major revolution that we must involve ourselves in. And we must remember that capitalism has not worked for the world. Wherever profits are what? Profits are earned by the rich and the politicians. So before colonization, something like that was happening before. I can't go far. So our revolution fight must depend on this. We must fight against economic elitism. Because most of our people exploit our nation, they rob our banks, invest in Europe and America, while Africans are suffering. We can develop our manufacturing sector, and people live in poverty. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. I've forgotten the name. Thank you for this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, King Anane. Thank you. It's King Mfanelo. Yes, great thanks to King Kabala for beautiful presentation.
King Kabala.
And thank you to all the kings for contributions and thought. We still have just about 2 minutes for the last microphone. Any takers?
Hello, a quick one from me.
Okay, so go for it, King. I think I see King Namo and King Dismas. Okay, we'll allow the two of you and we'll conclude.
Namo, take it.
All right. How are you? I hope everyone is doing well. I'm speaking from Zimbabwe. I just wanna say something regarding revolution in Africa. I'm fortunate enough that I come from Zimbabwe, and I just wanna give you a story in 1 minute what it means to revolt against the system. I remember when I was young, somewhere there in 2000, 2001, 2002, the late president of Zim, R.J. Mugabe, he embarked on a mission to take land back from the settlers and give it to Africans. And one thing I just want to say regarding that is, once we as Africans start to do that, the Western world have got a way of actually suppressing us. Like now, I think everyone knows that things are tough in Zim. It's not because it's supposed to be tough. It's because the Zim works against the system, and now they are trying by all means to make sure Zimbabwe becomes their project, and it's not supposed to succeed in all angles. Because once it succeeds, Ghana will do the same. They will take their land. Zambia will join and take land. And if all that happens, the whole Africa will be free. Because we can be Africans, but without our fertile land, who are we? If we don't own land, we don't own minerals. If we own the means of production, from agriculture, mining, believe you me, we can compete with the world. But now it's very difficult. If I look at South Africa for now, I'm always in South Africa. The white minority, they are controlling vast majority of wealth. They own the farms, they own the mines, they are doing everything. So who has money dictates the pace. We as Africans, we are on the receiving end. We are surviving on crunches. We are picking food from under the table. And like what Professor Lumumba said, he said the risk, it's President Ruto who said the risk of not being at the dinner table, you will be on the menu. And that's exactly what is happening in Africa. So if we can team up to say, okay, this is a group of people, we are scattered around the world. Some are from Ghana, some are from Zambia, some are from South Africa. If we can team up to say, guys, what can we do in order to change the narrative of the African continent? What can we do as Africans to own the businesses, to own the land, to own the means of production? Then the West will never say anything to us because we have the finished product ready to be consumed by our own people. We don't buy from them, they will come and buy from us. I think in short, that's what I can say today.
Hello.
Yes,
Are we there?
Sorry, King, were you done? My signal just
Hello?
dropped a bit.
Oh, we are done. Okay.
And it's King Dismas now.
Sorry, is the King finished? I
Yeah.
just got lost a bit.
Yes, the first king finished. King Namo finished. So I think it's it's now King Coco who's gonna speak. I think King Kwame as well had something to say. Okay.
Yeah. King Dismas. Yes, you can go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you.
King, please speak. The mic is open. The mic is yours. I think your mic is muted. Sorry.
Yeah, the mic is still under mute, King Dismas.
Okay.
What?
Thank you so much, kings and queens, those who are on the call this evening. I've been following keenly on the talks about the topic of the day, revolution, and I'm struggling to reconcile between the two words, revolution and a revolutionary. I believe from the talks I had from King Kabbalah and all the other contributors is that revolutionary are the people who drive the revolution. The persons with enough anger about what is happening around them to dare to change the system, to grab the power and to do things the right way. But now what happens when a revolutionary has removed the oppressor? Do we become the oppressors ourselves, or do we have to talk more about revolution? What do we do with the power once we grab it from the oppressor? I would invite all the speakers, maybe for another day, to think about more about the revolution than the time we have committed to talking about revolutionaries, the people who drive the revolution. Thank you.
Can I say just a quick word to that, if I'm allowed?
Go ahead, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm not
so
sure, but
no, perfect. You're right. So you come just after that. It's interesting. So I think if you recall from the introduction, we defined revolution as a change of the system. So a revolutionary is not trying to replace, to kick out the oppressor so that they can replace him. Revolutionaries are trying to build a new system, a system which is different from the system of oppression. Remember, what triggers the revolution is the oppression and suffering of the masses. So now revolutionaries are coming to rebuild, to build a new system through which the power, in the context of Africa, the power belongs to the people. No more the system of a predator against the masses. Remember, so a revolution not seeking to replace the oppressor so that it can become a new oppressor. Revolutionaries is seeking to replace the entire system and build a new system of justice and righteousness. Those were my words. Thank you very much for the contribution. Wonderful.
I have a quick question, House.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. So greetings, everyone. I've not even had any queen talking. Anyway, today we were talking about revolution. So I just got a quick question to the host. What is the difference between revolution and liberation? If there's a revolutionary and a liberator, what's the difference according to the understanding of the house, kindly?
Well, anybody can take on that question. We are all encouraged. There's no master in things here. We are all learning. But if I have to quickly answer to that, I would say that liberation is an objective. Revolution is, I would say, a lifestyle, right? It's like a lifestyle. Revolution, of course, but liberation is like objective that people want to achieve, through the revolutionary agenda. Otherwise, if you were deprived of liberty or freedom, you embark in the revolution to change the system that will then acquire you the freedom that you are not having. So now when it comes to the liberator, personally, I don't believe in any individual called liberators. I think all the people must be the liberators of themselves. There's nobody who can come and liberate other person. That's my answer. Thank you.
Just to add on to what you said with
thank you, King. Thank you so much, King. If anyone else has another version, maybe you can just drop it. I really like to get a clear definition, because so many people out here, so many Africans today, they call themselves revolutionaries, the next thing liberation and stuff. So you get confused. Is this person doing liberation or revolution? Is revolution a synonym to liberation? It gets confusing quite some time. But thank you, King Kabbalah, for the clarification.
Yeah, I think revolution comes before liberation.
So revolution is the process.
Sometimes it works together. Revolution comes before liberation. When we revolutionize, we liberate the people. So revolution comes before liberation. I think this is what I know about it.
You're both saying the same thing with what
revolution is a process. It's the process you go through to achieve liberation. If you feel that you don't have,
of course, perfect.
Yeah. So
revolution is the process to liberate, to achieve liberation.
So you have this process which you go through, then you achieve the liberation as an objective, like what King Kabbalah mentioned. You have an objective that you want we want to be free, so that we can conduct our society the way we want to, the way we see fit as people, the way we desire in all types of, sectors, whether political, economic, and social. We want to organize our society in our own way without anyone controlling us. So then that means you embark on a process of, achieving that liberation. So that process is the revolutionary process. So the revolution is just a process that you go through, but it's not a permanent state. But liberty or liberation, which is like a destination, but at the same time you must maintain it. Because if you don't maintain it, if you don't consolidate it, if you reach the liberation stage and you don't consolidate, then somebody can take it away. Like what happened to the continent of Africa. There's something which Dr. Nkrumah used to do, that get independence, consolidate independence, and then start the reconstruction process. So what we failed in the 1960s, especially 1964 AU, we failed to consolidate the liberation which we got. the independence, which was in form of the independence. So it was compromised. Now it became compromised, and that is where we are right now. Even though we were going through that process, some of the people during the 1960s, they thought that they have liberated the space. Yet Nkrumah was saying that what we have achieved through independence is just a starting process for us to completely liberate the whole continent. So we were still going through that process, and then it was interrupted because some people, of course, like I said, thought that they have already liberated. They thought they have reached. And so you hear people at the OAU saying that the OAU achieved its objective of liberating the continent, getting what, and all those things, but we had not yet achieved it since we had not yet taken control resources. So then it was compromised. So revolution is just a process that you go through to get the liberation.
Just to add what you have said, my comrade, it's not just a process, it's a massive process because it involves all facets of life. It looks at economics, it looks at politics, it looks at culture, language, and everything. The problem with us is that we focus only on political liberation, and we call that revolution. It's not enough. We need to cover all areas, all angles. And to respond to the gentleman who asked, do we now replace the oppressor? My brother, we were all right before the oppressor came in. So we need to define what it is we want. That's the other thing we failed. We failed to define clearly what it is we wanted. We need to go back to our own systems, Afrocentric systems, Afrocentric education, Afrocentric political structures, and put those in charge. We need to implement those in order to have a long-lasting revolution, a long-lasting solution for Africa, using African solutions.
Thank you very much.
I agree with the brother that Afrocentric mentality has got to come into place, because even discussing this thing in revolution, liberation, it's English language. It's not our language. All right, so we're repeating things that he came up with, his definition of stuff. What does matter is the action, and that's the action our people were living before we got involved with these Europeans, and following that model. So I rather in revolution development on the positive human development, because that's what our people gave to society, gave to humanity, positive human development. And then the others took it and ran off, and that's where we end up debating over revolution and liberation. It's not a language, it's his definition. We need to focus on how we see and how we think about our situation and how we're going to change it.
Perfectly said. Thank you very much, Uncle D. So, well, we have gone beyond time. Apologies to everyone. Thank you very much for your time and your participation. Then I'm going to go back to, I don't know if there's any last comment to make. Otherwise, I will call upon King Ken, who is our chairman in Ghana, to close the meeting. I actually want to give the mic for last comment to two people that we have in the house, Queen Zanella, and then King Ken, the two to close the meeting. Is there any last quick comment?
Yes, thank you,
All right.
Bala.
Yes, please go ahead.
Dan's presentation, I've learned so much today. For me, to answer that question, revolution is a process of achieving liberation. So in order to get liberation, you have to revolt. So that is my answer to that. But a lot has been said. I don't really have much to say. I've learned a lot, and I just want people to know that, colonialism will make you mentally, disturbed because of the system. So we are colonized people, and we are trying to break away from the yoke, right? And it's like the life we live, it's not ours. Most of us are afraid because, everything that we're up against, in our journeys. We are courageous, but afraid. Some of us. But I guess with age, you are able to assess certain things and pick your battles as you go along. Our cultural existence itself is at war, with colonialism. I'm saying I borrowed my life because it's like we are existing, but we are present. And even though we are present, nobody is seeing Africa. Nobody can see us in the global scale. And when they see us, it's like we are not there. It's like we don't exist. Congo don't exist. That alone is enough to affect you mentally. On my skin, you will understand that the disadvantages, right, of experiencing a subordination process. A subordination process, between the colonizer and the colonized. How do we come to terms with these imposed assimilation policies that is in place that is making us mentally disadvantaged? Day by day, night by night, we substitute pain with hope as African people. They smile to our faces, and at the same time, wage war, silent wars with quiet weapons. There are those who smile to our face, and it's just crazy. They're responsible for making the world way more ugly, and less beautiful. So it's just sad, but we have to keep the fight. I just want to say that it is good everybody is here because we're also working on the peaceful demonstration in the different countries. So let us come on board and continue to do what we need to do. The old, I call him Unc Jumba talked about class suicide. I don't know if people catch that, but that was deep. It mentioned class suicide, and you have to kill that, for the colonialism, for the revolutionary process. But we'll get there. In the process. Peace and love.
Thank you very much, King Kwame. Well, about people being afraid, I will say that if people are afraid, they can go to church. That's a quote from Kwame Stevens. And so you said it well about the march that we are preparing next year. So actually, that even confirmed what Uncle D said. I mean, ACUP, it's not just we are not trying to separate ourselves from the activists. No, we have activism within the ACUP as well as a revolutionary dimension. The reason why we have march, we also go down the streets and protest for certain things that we want. So next year, ACP is going down to march for single currency, but at the same time, we don't forget that revolutionary agenda is what we are focused on as well. So thank you very much, Uncle D. You well spoken there. So I'm gonna then invite Queen Zanella to make the last comment to close the meeting, as well as King Ken will also close the meeting. If we are still interested to stay on discussion, the room will remain open, but we officially gonna close the meeting at this point. Thank you very much. Queen Zanella, are you able to to bless us with your closing comment as a queen? This because you are the only queen in the house.
Yeah, thank you so much, my king, for the honor. It's really thoughtful of you to get to know that the village is never complete without a queen. It's a queen that makes a village complete. So thank you everyone. Thank you to all the kings who attended the meeting. And happy Kwanzaa to all the Black people here. Happy Kwanzaa to all of you. Please be proud of where you come from as a people. And I've learned quite a lot about today's class. I've heard the difference between activism, revolution, and the question that I shot later about liberation. Yeah, that's all I have to say for now. Let's keep our spirits high as a people. We are at war. There's an Armageddon war going on, and it's about Black people against the world. I hope we really know that we are the most oppressed race in the whole world. We are the most unwanted race in the whole world. But then we are the most powerful race in the whole world. We are the cradle of every other hater. So we got to put that in our head. We got to put back our crowns as a people. We are the royalties. Just today evening, I was telling myself, as a Black woman, as an African woman, I am the source of all walks of life. So that is not something that any other race can, but a Black woman can. I can give birth. I can bring to life any other race on earth. So please keep it in your head that you're a royalty. Have a great evening. King Kabbalah, you just said that the floor is going to remain open if people are open for other discussions. So I'll leave it at that. After the official adjournment of the meeting, we can have other discussions for people who still have questions. I can see new people here. It's been quite a while. I saw King Hajamu. King Hajamu, hello, and I hope you're fine. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Queen. Wonderful as always. King Ken, the floor is yours, please, to close the meeting.
Yeah, great, King, Queen, and Kings. King Kabbalah, you remember I told you the Queen went to the riverside to bring some water. She'll be back. And lo and behold,
exactly.
She came back.
Yeah.
King Kabbalah, thanks so much for coming. And but the truth of the matter is that the takeaway from me is we have a reality. Our revolution is cut out our current reality with the history behind us. So once we continue to sow the seed of discussion, I'm sure we'll get there. And I hope that we'll continue to be meeting together, we'll be reading, we'll be digesting, we'll be formulating strategies for the real revolution. It's right in front of us. Let's all get together and we will win that fight. Kings and Queen. Let's take it away and start thinking about it and sowing the seed and continue to sow the seed.
Thank you very much, King Ken. Thank you very much to everyone. Just reminding those who have joined late.
Peace and power to all of you. Thanks.
Perfect. For those who have joined late, we will post the recording of this session on the platform, Freemind Pan-African Academy. You can go through, listen to it again, and gain some more insight. It's for all our development of the agenda. So, peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those at home, those abroad, and those in the future. The floor remains open for any other topic discussion. Sorry. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for
bye-bye. In the meantime, I'd like to urge everyone to learn Swahili. He's many Africans because we are